Hi, can you guys see me?
Yes.
Oh, cool, because I can't see myself anywhere. Hi, good afternoon. Early morning for me. I can't see you. I have no idea who I'm talking to, but hopefully nice people. My name is Stefania. I'm a Ph.D. student at University of Washington, and I will talk a little bit about my research on democratizing AI education for kids. So I've been working on this project even before joining University of Washington. It's a project that I started during my master's at MIT. And the reason this is a topic that is really close to my heart, and it's something that I wanted to research, is because I've been working with kids for the past 8 years. I started this organization called HacKidemia, where the main mission was to empower kids to learn by playing and by doing. And we had all sorts of workshops, science, technology, hacking with extracting DNA from strawberries, programming that we did in more than 15 countries, training mentors to teach kids. So it was very much based on this idea that kids should have access to the latest concepts and technologies, and that we should have this kind of education to prepare them for the 21st century. Now, today, what we see is that not only do we need to teach kids about STEM, we need to teach them about programming, but we actually see that kids today are growing up with AI. And in US alone, we know we have more than 47 million homes that have a voice assistant. So that's really a number that is estimated to grow. So what does AI for kids look like? When I joined MIT in 2016, these were some of the main products existing that were targeted at bringing smart technologies to kids. And the device in the middle is actually Mattel's first attempt at creating a voice assistant for kids. It was called Aristotle. They planned to launch it for Christmas in 2017. But 15,000 parents signed the petition against it because they didn't want a company to be able to record and get so much information from their kids. So Mattel had to pull out this product. However, a few months later, Amazon decided to say that their Alexa will be available for kids, and that, for some reason, didn't receive as much pushback. So because kids are growing up with AI, and because this technology is already present in their home or in their toys, we wanted to understand how do they perceive these smart toys, these smart devices, how much they trust them. And we did our first initial study where we invited 27 families to the lab, kids from 3.5 to 10-year-old, and we had them interact with all these different AI devices and toys. They would play with them. They would program them when it was possible, and then we would ask them questions like, is it smarter than you? Yes, no, maybe. Do you trust it? Is it friendly? Will it remember you? And what we found actually is that most of the kids perceived these agents as friendly and truthful, but that age really made the difference in terms of how they attributed intelligence to them. So the younger kids, which were 3.5 to 6, were more skeptical about the smarts of these devices, while the older kids were 100% sure they're smarter, that Alexa is smarter than they are, because it has access to more information. And the other thing we saw is that kids would have this protege effect, which was actually observed before with social robots, where they would treat devices differently, and they would expect, for example, that their Alexa at home would be better than the one we had at the study, because they would know them better. So because we wanted to dive deeper into this question, we decided to try to investigate more how do kids attribute intelligence to machines different than the way they attribute intelligence to people. So we ran another study with 30 families, where this time around we actually had we actually had kids watching videos of a robot solving a maze, and then watching videos of a mouse solving a maze, and then teleoperating a robot to try to solve the maze. And the idea was for them to compare all of these different, to compare themselves to the robot solving the maze, to compare themselves to the mouse solving the maze, and say who's smarter. Is it the mouse, is it the robot, or themselves? And the funny thing was that we actually, this time around, we invited parents to do the study as well, separate from their kids. And what we found was actually that even if they're not in the same room, the way kids would explain why the robot is smarter, right? Like they would say things like, oh, the robot was more fluent, it was programmed, that's why it can go through the maze more easily. Or if they choose the mouse, the way they would explain it is like, oh, the mouse can smell the cheese, so it's faster because of that. So it turns out that the explanations that the kids gave were very, very similar to the explanations that the parents gave. And we initially were like, this is quite surprising, and then we invited more and more families, and what we found actually that the older kids, the older the kids were, the more they would mirror their parents. So the kids that were like 8 to 10 were much more similar in their attitudes towards this technology than the kids that were younger. So it's not only that we actually need to take into account like how much experience kids have with this technology and how much they know how it works, but we also need to take into account how their parents talk about this technology and how they explain it, because kids tend to mirror that a lot. The last study we did was actually, this was inspired by the fact that one of the connected toys, the My Friend Kayla toy doll, which is in this picture, was hacked. So this doll was hacked the moment it was released in Europe. It's actually banned from the market in Germany, but in US you can still buy it on Amazon for $29. So we wanted to actually test, if this doll got compromised and it got hacked, and let's say, people would try to influence the kids through this doll for good or for bad, like, would that be possible? So this was a pilot study. So we actually had 27 kids play. We had 3 conditions. One group from these kids actually talked to the doll. Another group talked to a confederate, which was a graduate student, and we had a control group. And in each of these cases, we had the kids come to the lab, first play a game with their agent, either the doll or the graduate student, or by themselves. And then they would watch videos. They would watch videos that would show them pictures and ask them typical, classical, conventional questions around conformity and moral choices. Like, is it okay or not okay to stand when everyone is sitting? Is it okay or not okay to hit another child? And they would give their answers, and then they would play with the doll, and then they would watch the videos again, and this time around the doll would try to influence them. So the doll would say, I think it's okay, or I think it's not okay. And they would measure how much the kids changed their questions, either in the doll condition or in the confederate, in the human condition, or in the control condition. So in terms of the conventional questions, like okay to stand or to sit, the human was more efficient in changing kids' opinions. In terms of the moral questions like, is it okay or not okay to hit another child? We were showing a picture with pillows. The doll was more convincing. So it's interesting. I mean, this was a pilot study. We take the findings like just as a interesting insight into researching this more. It does confirm more research, recent research done by Volmer and others, where they show that social robots can even exert a peer pressure over kids. So what we see here, what we thought happened, is that kids didn't feel the need to give the right answer when they were talking with the doll, or sometimes they were playing and trying to test the limits. But it is something that is that raises some questions, right? Like, how do we teach these kids to know what it would be normal for a doll to ask them or not, or for an Alexa to ask them or not? And how do we create a cultural literacy of AI, critical critical understanding for families. So we have connected families that don't look like this, where everyone is like on their screen or their favorite device, but connected families where we can have collaborative learning with intelligent agents, where these black boxes, these devices that are very hard to kind of take apart and sometimes understand, become more tinkerable and transparent. So we built this platform called Cognimates. It builds on top of Scratch. It's a block visual programming language platform. It's open source and free, and it allows kids to program robots. It allows them to also train their own machine learning models with their data, with their pictures or with their text. It also allows them to program IoT devices. It has lots of plugins, which we call extensions. And it was good for us to start with Scratch because it's a program that most of the kids are familiar with. So it wasn't something new that they had to learn. But we allow them to have all these new AI plugins like sentiment analysis, and I have a video, but I'm not going to play it. So these are the galleries of different plugins that we created. This is kind of how the overall coding platform looks like. We have like these visual blocks for the different libraries. They can be put together kind of like Lego pieces in the coding area. And then we see the outcome on the stage or in the real world in case we're programming robots. The training page looks like this. We actually changed the design a little bit. So this part, it looks a little bit different. This is where kids can add their examples. So they could make a toy, become a talking toy just with examples of their text, and they could make this toy learn how to do sarcastic jokes or backhanded compliments. And it was very surprising to us to see what were all the things that kids would want to create if they were able to teach a smart toy or if they were able to teach the computer. We collaborated with Technovation and actually created an entire series of curriculum modules for this program they're doing with 700 families around the world. So these are online. And what we found, actually, going back to the initial research findings, is that if kids learn how to program these devices, we did these longitudinal studies in private schools, public schools, community centers. If they learn how to program and teach these devices, they become much more skeptical. So their answers to the question, is it smart or no, after they learn how to program and how to train these devices, shifts from yes or maybe to maybe or to no and maybe. So we see a significant shift in how they position themselves towards these devices. And I actually did this research. I'm Romanian, and I lived and worked and studied in many places, and it's very important for me to also do this work internationally. So we did this work in Berlin at Ready School, which is a school for digital integration for refugee students, in Denmark, in Sweden, and many other places. And we also see that this perception of AI for kids is also affected by the culture in which they grow up. So what we found, for example, was that the kids in Berlin were the most skeptical of the intelligence of these devices. Also, like in terms of like how much they tell the truth. And yeah, I think it's important. This is a collaboration we did recently in Berlin with the Weissenbaum Institute, and we had one of the main science communicators in Germany come and talk to the kids. And when the adults talk about AI for kids, they take this very authoritative approach where it's like we should teach them about ethics, we should show them example of what's good and what's bad, we should teach them how the function works and neuron works, matrix multiplication. Can we do that with kids? So they have like a very different approach. But when you go and talk to kids about self-driving cars, that's not fun because driving a car is fun for kids. So if we want to, let's say, learn about ethics of AI, it needs to start in a way that is relatable for them. So if they train a computer to play rock, paper, scissors, and they see, oh, my game works with my hand, but it doesn't work with my friend's hand because it has a different color. how can I change that? Because I want to play with my friend. Oh, I know, I put only pictures of hands that look like mine. Maybe I need to have more different types of pictures. So that becomes a much more grounded conversation about bias, and they see why it matters, they see how they can change it. And I think in general, this new generation of kids, the alpha generation, are much more flexible and have a different approach and are more open when they think about the future with AI. And sometimes us as adults, we should be more open and listen to them. So yeah, I think I'm running out of time. I definitely invite you to go to this link and play with what we built. And we have starter projects if you want to try them out. And yeah, I will wrap it up here by saying that this is by no means only my work. This was my team of undergrads who continue to work with me even after I graduated MIT and are contributing, Sarah, Tammy, Ish, active contributors on this project. And I will wrap it up here. And hopefully we have time for at least 1 or 2 questions, so I don't feel that I talked alone for this whole time. Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot.